The morning it all began started like every other Thursday. Sunlight filtered through our Upper West Side apartment windows, painting gold stripes across the California king bed, where my husband Christopher slept peacefully beside me. Or so I thought. "Morning, beautiful," Chris murmured, his voice sleep-rough as he pulled me closer. His lips found my shoulder, a familiar morning ritual that had lasted 8 years of marriage. I turned in his arms, smiling up at him. "Someone's affectionate this morning." "I'm always affectionate," he said, kissing me properly this time. A soft, lingering kiss that tasted of mint toothpaste and the coffee he hadn't yet drunk. "Last day of the quarter. Big presentation today. Wish me luck." "Always," I said, running a hand through his dark hair. "You'll kill it. You always do." He kissed me once more. A quick, efficient peck this time before swinging out of bed. "Gotta run. Meeting with the London team at 7 a.m. I watched him move through our bedroom with the efficient grace I'd always admired. Chris Anderson was a man who commanded spaces. 6'2" shoulders that filled his tailored suits perfectly. A smile that could close million-dollar deals or melt my heart with equal ease. Or so I believed for 8 years. "Don't work too hard," I called as he headed for the shower. "You know me," he called back, the shower already running. "All work, no play." The words should have been innocent. Just marital banter. But looking back, they were the first clue I missed. The first thread I didn't pull. While Chris showered, I scrolled through my phone. Emails from my software team. A text from my father checking if we were still coming for dinner Sunday. A reminder about the charity gala Chris had insisted we attend next month. Normal Thursday morning things. Chris emerged 20 minutes later, dressed in his usual uniform. Navy Tom Ford suit, crisp white shirt, burgundy tie I'd bought him last Christmas. He looked every inch the successful investment banker he was. "Walk me out," he asked, checking his Rolex. I followed him to the foyer, leaning against the doorframe as he gathered his briefcase and keys. The morning sun caught the silver at his temples. New this year, but it suited him. Made him look distinguished. "Don't forget we have couples counseling at 6, I reminded him. He made a face. "Do we have to? It's been months, Bella. Aren't we better?" "It's maintenance," I said, repeating what our therapist had told us. "Like getting your teeth cleaned." Fine, he said, though his smile didn't reach his eyes. He leaned in for one last kiss, the goodbye kiss that would become the center of everything that followed. It was different from the morning kiss. Softer. Almost regretful. "Love you," he said, his hand cupping my cheek. "Love you more," I replied automatically. Then he was gone, the elevator doors closing behind him, leaving me alone in our $2 million apartment with its view of Central Park and its growing collection of silences. I should have known then. Should have felt it in the way his lips lingered just a second too long, like he was memorizing me. In the way his eyes held mine with an intensity that felt like goodbye rather than see you later. But I didn't. I made coffee, dressed for my own work-from-home day, and settled at my desk with my first video call of the morning. It wasn't until noon that the first thread unraveled. I was between meetings, heating leftover pasta in our chef's kitchen, when my phone buzzed with the notification from our security system. Front door opened. 11:58 a.m. I frowned. Chris should have been at his Wall Street office hours ago. Maybe he'd forgotten something? I pulled up the live camera feed. The foyer was empty. The door was closed. Strange. Then another notification. Front door closed. 11:59 a.m. My heart did a funny little skip. I accessed the motion log. Sure enough, the system showed the front door opening and closing twice this morning. Once at 6:45 a.m. when Chris left, and again just now. But that didn't make sense. If Chris had come back, I would have heard him, would have seen him. A cold trickle of unease started down my spine. I called Chris's phone. It went straight to voicemail. "Hey, it's Chris. Leave a message." "Hey, babe," I said, trying to keep my voice light. "Got a notification that the front door opened. Just checking if you came back for something. Call me." I waited 5 minutes. No callback. Then I did something I'd never done before in 8 years of marriage. I checked his location. We shared locations on our phones. Had since we started dating. It was a safety thing Chris had said when he suggested it. So I always know my beautiful wife is safe. The little blue dot showed him at his office building on Wall Street. Exactly where he should be. I should have left it there. Should have assumed the security system glitched. Should have gone back to my pasta and my afternoon meetings. But some deep primal instinct told me to look closer. I opened the location history, scrolled back to 7 a.m. this morning, watched the little dot travel from our Upper West Side apartment to a coffee shop 3 blocks from our building, then to his office. Normal. All normal. Except, the timing was off. I pulled up Google Maps, did a quick calculation. The commute from our apartment to his office should take 25 to 35 minutes depending on traffic. But according to his location history, he'd arrived in 18 minutes. At 6:45 a.m. in Manhattan? Impossible. The cold trickle became a flood. I went back to the security system, checked the door log times again, cross-referenced with his location history. 6:45 a.m. Front door opens, Chris leaves. 6:46 a.m. Front door closes. 6:48 a.m. Chris's location shows him at Sweet Bean Cafe 3 blocks away. 7:03 a.m. Chris's location shows him arriving at office. The math didn't add up. Even with no traffic, getting from our building to that cafe took at least 5 minutes on foot. Then another 20 plus to his office. Unless he'd never actually left the building. The thought was so ridiculous I almost laughed aloud. Of course he'd left. I kissed him goodbye. Watched him get on the elevator. Hadn't I? I replayed the morning in my head. The kiss. The elevator doors closing. Me going back to bed for 10 minutes before starting my day. I hadn't actually seen the elevator go down. Hadn't heard the lobby door. Had assumed. My hand started shaking. I pulled up another app, the building's package delivery tracker. Residents got notifications when packages were delivered or picked up. It also showed elevator usage for deliveries. Scrolling to 6:45 a.m. Elevator 1. Ground floor to penthouse. 6:44 a.m. Elevator 1. Penthouse to ground floor. 6:46 a.m. Elevator 1. Ground floor to 4th floor. 6:47 a.m. 4th floor. Mrs. Henderson. The sweet old widow who got her groceries delivered every Thursday morning. But if the elevator went to the 4th floor at 6:47 a.m., and Chris supposedly left at 6:45, he couldn't have taken that elevator down. Maybe he took the stairs? Unlikely in a suit with a briefcase. And why would he? Or maybe, I access one more system, the security cameras in the lobby. Residents could view them through the building app. Scroll to 6:45 a.m. There he was. Chris, briefcase in hand, stepping out of the elevator, smiling at Henry the doorman, walking toward the front doors. Then, he stopped, turned around, said something to Henry, pointed toward the back entrance. Henry nodded. Chris walked past the front doors toward the back hallway that led to the service entrance, the mailroom, and the stairwell. The camera angle didn't cover that hallway. I fast-forwarded. 6:50 a.m. 7 a.m. 7:15 a.m. No Chris leaving through the front door. But his location showed him at the cafe at 6:48 a.m. At his office by 7:03 a.m. Impossible. Unless the location was fake. The realization hit me like a physical blow. So obvious. So simple. I'd worked in software engineering for 12 years. I knew about GPS spoofing apps. Knew how easy it was to make a phone appear somewhere it wasn't. But why? Why would Chris fake his location? The answer came immediately, unwelcome and ugly, because he wasn't where he said he was. I checked the time. 12:30 p.m. Chris should be in his quarterly presentation right now. Should be unreachable for hours. I did something else I'd never done. I called his office. Anderson's office. This is Lauren, his assistant answered. Hi Lauren, it's Bella. Is Chris available? A pause. Too long a pause. Oh, Mrs. Anderson. He's in a meeting right now. The big quarterly review. Can I take a message? Her voice was just a hair too bright. Just a shade too quick. Actually, I need to speak with him urgently, I said, layering my voice with emergency. Family matter. Can you pull him out? Another pause. Let me check if he's available. I heard muffled sounds like she'd put her hand over the receiver. Then, I'm so sorry, he's presenting right now. Completely unreachable. Is everything okay? No, everything was not okay. Because in the background, through the muffled hand-over receiver, I'd heard something. A distinctive sound. The same distinctive sound that came from the espresso machine in our building's lobby cafe. The same cafe his location had shown him at this morning. The same cafe that was 3 blocks from our apartment, not in a Wall Street skyscraper. I'll call his cell, I said, hanging up before she could respond. My hands were ice cold. My heart hammered against my ribs. The beautiful sun-drenched apartment suddenly felt like a gilded cage. I pulled up the security camera feeds again, scrolled through every camera angle. Lobby, mailroom, service entrance, garage, there, garage camera, 6:47 a.m. A black sedan pulling into a parking spot. Not Chris's usual spot. A visitor spot in the far corner, mostly hidden by a pillar. The driver's door opened. A woman stepped out. Early 30s. Blonde. Familiar, though I couldn't place why. She looked around, a quick, furtive glance, then took the stairwell door. The same stairwell Chris had disappeared into. The timeline clicked into place with terrible clarity. 6:45 a.m. Chris kisses me goodbye. 6:46 a.m. He takes elevator down but doesn't leave. 6:47 a.m. Blonde woman arrives, takes stairwell. 6:48 a.m. Chris's phone shows cafe location spoofed. 7:03 a.m. Chris's phone shows office location spoofed. All morning. Chris somewhere in our building with another woman. The betrayal was so complete, so calculated, it stole the air from my lungs. I stumbled to the bathroom, barely making it to the toilet before I vomited. The remains of my lunch, the coffee, the 8 years of my marriage, all of it coming up in painful, heaving waves. When there was nothing left, I sat on the cold marble floor, hugging my knees, trying to breathe. What now? Do I confront him? Wait for more evidence? Call my father? The thought of my father, Miguel Rodriguez, retired judge, the man who taught me to always look for evidence before making accusations, steadied me. Evidence. I needed evidence. I stood, washed my face, and looked at my reflection in the mirror. The woman staring back had tear-streaked cheeks but determined eyes. Chris thought he was smart. Thought his little GPS trick would keep me fooled. But he'd forgotten one thing. He'd married a software engineer. A woman who understood technology better than he ever would. A woman who could follow digital footprints better than any detective. And he'd forgotten something else. The security system in our building. The one I'd helped design and install as a favor to the building manager. The one with features even the security company didn't know about. Features like hidden cameras in the stairwells, audio sensors in the common areas, a complete digital footprint of every movement in this building. Chris had kissed me goodbye and thought he'd gotten away with something. But his GPS had lied. And I was about to uncover every single truth he thought he'd hidden. The hours after my discovery passed in a blur of methodical fury. I moved through our apartment like a ghost, my mind racing while my hands worked with cold precision. Every familiar object, the wedding photo on the mantel, the vacation souvenirs, the couch where we'd cuddled watching movies, now felt like evidence in a crime scene. First, I secured my digital footprint. I changed every password Chris might know, email, banking, social media, cloud storage. I created new accounts he wouldn't recognize. I enabled two-factor authentication on everything. My father had taught me this much. When you're going to war, you first secure your own borders. Next, I accessed the building's security system backend, the administrative portal only 3 people in the building knew about. The system I'd helped design 2 years ago when the building manager, Mr. Chan, had asked for advice on upgrading their security. The login screen welcomed me. Welcome, Isabella Rodriguez, System Administrator. I had full access. Every camera. Every sensor. Every log. I started with the stairwell camera feeds. Scrolled back to 6:47 a.m. There she was, the blonde woman from the garage camera. She moved with purpose, taking the stairs 2 at a time, not even winded when she reached the 4th floor landing. Then I saw it. She didn't continue up to the residential floors. Instead, she used a keycard on the fourth floor service door, the one that led to the maintenance rooms, electrical closets, and the rarely used guest suite. The guest suite. Of course. Our building had a small furnished apartment meant for visiting family of residents. It was booked through the building manager, usually weeks in advance. I'd never seen anyone use it. Until now. The camera angle inside the service corridor was limited, but I saw enough. She entered the guest suite. Door closed. Then, from another camera angle, the stairwell camera one floor up, I saw Chris. 6:49 a.m. taking the stairs down from our floor to the fourth floor. Using his own keycard on the same service door. He didn't look furtive or guilty. He looked comfortable. Like this was routine. The timeline was undeniable. 6:47 a.m. Blonde woman enters guest suite. 6:49 a.m. Chris enters same guest suite. 7:30 a.m. Door remains closed. 8:45 a.m. Door remains closed. 10 a.m. Door remains closed. They'd been in there for over 3 hours. While I'd been in our apartment directly above them, drinking coffee and taking work calls, completely unaware that my husband was cheating on me literally beneath my feet. The physical pain of betrayal was a living thing in my chest. Sharp. Breathing. Stealing my air. But I couldn't afford to feel it yet. Not until I had all the evidence. I pulled up the guest suite reservation log. Scrolled back through weeks, then months. There it was. Every Thursday morning for the past 6 months. Reserved under C. Anderson. My husband had been booking the guest suite in our own building, using our home as cover for his affair. The audacity took my breath away. The reservations weren't just Thursdays. I found Tuesday afternoons, Friday late meetings, even a Saturday when he told me he was playing golf with colleagues. 6 months. Half a year of lies. Half a year of kisses that meant nothing. Of I love yous that were empty. Of a marriage that had been dead long before I'd noticed the corpse. I needed to see her face clearly. I enhanced the garage camera footage, zooming in on the blonde woman. That's when recognition slammed into me. Emma Reynolds. Chris's new executive assistant. The one he'd hired 3 months ago. The one he'd brought to our charity dinner last month, where she'd complimented my dress and touched his arm just a little too familiarly. I'd noticed. I'd even mentioned it to Chris later. She seems a little handsy with you. He'd laughed it off. Don't be ridiculous, Bella. She's just enthusiastic. And she's married. Married. Right. I pulled up her employee file from Chris's company website. Public information for executives. Emma Reynolds, 32, Senior Executive Assistant. Education. University of Michigan. Previous employment. Goldman Sachs. And her photo. Smiling. Confident. Blonde hair swept over one shoulder in the same style she'd worn today. My hands trembled as I dug deeper. Social media. Public records. Anything. What I found was complicated. Emma wasn't just Chris's assistant. She was also the daughter of Robert Reynolds, Chris's biggest client. The account worth millions in commission. The account Chris had been nurturing for years. This wasn't just an affair. This was business. This was about securing the Reynolds account by sleeping with the client's daughter. The betrayal went deeper than infidelity. This was about using our marriage as collateral for career advancement. I checked the time, 2:15 p.m. Chris's quarterly presentation should be ending soon. He'd come home around 7, expecting his dutiful wife, expecting couples counseling at 6, expecting his perfectly constructed life to continue uninterrupted. Not today. I needed advice. I needed my father. Miguel Rodriguez answered on the first ring, his voice calm and steady as always. Mija? Everything okay? The sound of his voice, the familiar Spanish endearment, nearly broke me. Dad, I need you. It's Chris. There was a pause, then the sound of a chair scraping. I'm on my way. Don't do anything until I get there. Dad, wait. But he'd already hung up. That was my father, action first, questions later. While I waited, I dug deeper into the financials. Chris and I kept separate accounts for personal spending but had joint accounts for household expenses. I logged into our shared banking portal. The transfer started 6 months ago, coinciding with the first guest suite reservation. $500 here, $1,000 there. Always cash withdrawals. Always on days matching the reservation log. But that wasn't the worst of it. I checked the credit card statements. Flowers delivered to E. Reynolds at an Upper East Side address. Expensive dinners at restaurants Chris had told me were client meetings. Jewelry store charges for items I'd never received. And then I found it. A $25,000 transfer from our joint savings to an account I didn't recognize. 2 months ago. The memo? Investment opportunity. I traced the account number. It was registered to Emma Reynolds. He wasn't just having an affair. He was funding it with our money. The apartment swam around me. The beautiful things we'd bought together, the life we'd built. All of it felt tainted. Poisoned. My phone buzzed with a text from Chris. Crazy day. Presentation went great. Home by 7. Can't wait to see you. The lies were so effortless for him. So natural. I didn't respond. Couldn't. Instead, I did something I'd been putting off. I accessed the audio sensors in the guest suite corridor. The building had installed them after a security incident last year, my suggestion actually. They only activated when they detected voices. I scrolled through today's recordings. Selected 6:50 a.m. The audio was crystal clear. Emma's voice laughing. You're getting bold, booking the room right under your wife's nose. Chris. It's the perfect cover. She'd never suspect. A kissing sound. Chris. Besides, after the quarter closes, everything changes. Emma. You'll finally tell her? Chris. I'll handle it. Don't worry about Bella. My name in his mouth felt like a violation. Emma. And the prenup? Your father said. Chris. My father has his lawyers working on it. We'll find a loophole. Bella's sentimental. She won't fight if I do it right. Prenup. His father's lawyers. They weren't just having an affair. They were planning my exit. The doorbell rang. My father. I let him in, and one look at my face told him everything. He gathered me into his arms, the same strong arms that had carried me as a child, that had walked me down the aisle, that now held me as my world crumbled. Tell me everything, he said when I'd stopped shaking. So I did. I showed him the footage, played the audio, showed him the financial records. My father, the retired judge who'd spent 40 years listening to lies in courtrooms, listened without interruption. When I finished, his expression was grim but unsurprised. I never trusted him, he said quietly. There was always something calculated about Christopher, but you loved him. So I supported you. I'm such a fool, I whispered. No. He took my face in his hands. You're trusting. There's a difference. He's the fool for throwing away someone like you. He moved to the window, looking out at the city. Here's what we're going to do. First, we secure your position. Then we gather irrefutable evidence. Then we decide how to proceed. He laid out a plan with military precision, the same analytical mind that had made him one of the most respected judges in New York. Today we do nothing, he said. You go to couples counseling as planned. You act normal. Meanwhile, I'll have my investigator start digging into Emma Reynolds, into Chris's finances, into everything. Investigator? I asked. He smiled, a small dangerous smile. Sophia Williams, the best private investigator in the city. She's handled sensitive matters for me before. The way he said it told me this wasn't the first time he'd protected someone from a predator. I can't face him tonight, I said. I can't pretend. You can, my father said firmly. And you will. Because every moment you pretend is another moment we gather evidence. Another moment we ensure he can't take everything from you. He was right. I knew he was right. So when Chris came home at 7 p.m., carrying flowers and wearing his loving husband mask, I was waiting. Wearing the emerald dress he liked, smiling the smile he expected. Hey, beautiful, he said, kissing my cheek. Sorry I'm late. Traffic was brutal. Long day. I asked, taking the flowers. My hands didn't shake. My voice didn't tremble. The longest, he said, loosening his tie. but successful. Reynolds loved the presentation. Should mean a big bonus. Reynolds, Emma's father, the client he was securing by sleeping with his daughter. I smiled. That's wonderful, honey. He looked at me, his eyes searching my face. Everything okay? You seem quiet. Just tired, I said. Long workday for me too. He nodded, buying it. Why wouldn't he? I'd been buying his lies for 6 months. We went to couples counseling. I played my part, the concerned wife trying to save her marriage. Chris played his, the busy husband who just needed to find balance. Our therapist, Dr. Evans, noticed something. Isabella, you seem disconnected today. Is there something you're not saying? Chris looked at me, his expression carefully concerned. Bella? Is something wrong? I met his eyes, the eyes of the man who'd kissed me goodbye this morning before cheating on me in our own building. The man who was plotting with his father to break our prenup. Just thinking, I said softly, about trust, about how it's the foundation of everything, and how once it's broken. I let the sentence hang, watching him carefully. He shifted uncomfortably. Nothing's broken, Bella. We're just going through a rough patch. Dr. Evans looked between us, her professional curiosity piqued. Is there a specific trust issue we should discuss? Chris answered before I could. No, nothing specific. Just the usual stress of 2 careers, busy lives. I let him talk. Let him dig his own grave with platitudes and excuses. Because I knew something he didn't. While we sat in this therapy office, Sophia Williams was already digging into his life. Into Emma's life. Into every secret they thought was hidden. And my father was in my apartment reviewing security footage, financial records, every piece of evidence we'd gathered today. The GPS had lied. But the truth was coming. And when it did, Christopher Anderson was going to learn that the woman he'd underestimated was also the woman who would destroy him. The morning after the counseling session, I woke to an empty bed. The space beside me was cold. Chris had left early again. Same routine. Same lies. But today was different. Today I wasn't just a betrayed wife. I was a hunter. My father was already in the kitchen when I emerged. His reading glasses perched on his nose as he studied documents spread across the marble countertop. Good morning, Mija, he said without looking up. Sophia delivered the first report. I poured coffee, my hand steady. What did she find? He handed me a folder. Emma Reynolds isn't who she appears to be. The first page was a photograph, Emma younger with darker hair, standing with a man who wasn't her current husband. The caption, Emma Walsh, 2015, with then-fiancé Thomas Bennett. Walsh? I asked. Her maiden name, my father said. She changed it back to Reynolds after her divorce 2 years ago. But that's not the interesting part. He flipped to the next page, court documents. Thomas Bennett sued her for fraud. Alleged she convinced him to invest in a business that didn't exist. Took him for $200,000. I stared at the documents. She's a con artist? More sophisticated than that, my father said. She targets wealthy men, gets close to them, extracts money, then disappears. The pieces clicked into place. And Chris is her latest target. Exactly, my father said. But here's what's interesting. Your husband isn't just a victim. Look at this. He showed me financial records. Not ours, but Chris's personal accounts I hadn't known existed. Offshore. Hidden. Sophia found these through international banking contacts, he explained. Chris has been moving money for months. Large sums. And guess who else has accounts at the same bank? He didn't need to say it. Emma. Not just Emma, my father said. Her father. Robert Reynolds. I sat down heavily. This isn't an affair. It's a business arrangement. A criminal business arrangement, my father corrected. Sophia thinks they're moving money for Reynolds, using Chris's position at the bank to launder funds. The betrayal kept getting deeper. Layers upon layers of deception. What do we do? I asked. We continue gathering evidence, my father said. And we watched today's rendezvous. He pulled up the building security system on his tablet. They're in the guest suite now. Arrived separately, same as yesterday. I couldn't look. Couldn't bear to see them together again. But my father wasn't watching for voyeuristic reasons. He was watching for evidence. Sophia installed additional cameras last night, he said. With audio. In the guest suite itself. I stared at him. How? A former client of mine owns the security company that services this building, he said simply. They owed me a favor. He handed me headphones. You need to hear this. With trembling hands I put them on. My father pressed play. Chris's voice came through clearly. The transfer went through without issue. Your father should be pleased. Emma, he is. Which is why he's moving forward with phase 2. Chris. So soon? I thought we were waiting until after the divorce. Emma. Change of plans. The SEC investigation is getting too close. We need to move the remaining funds before they freeze the accounts. A pause. The sound of papers shuffling. Chris. And my cut. Emma. 10%. As agreed. Once everything is in the Caymans. Chris. And Bella. Emma's laugh was cold. What about her? You'll serve the papers next week. With the prenup loophole my father's lawyers found, she gets nothing. Chris. She'll fight. Emma. Let her try. By the time she realizes what's happening, we'll be gone. And you, my love, will be a very rich man. The recording ended. I removed the headphones, my hands shaking. They're leaving the country, I whispered. Soon, my father confirmed. Which means we need to move faster. He pulled out his phone, dialed. Sophia? We need to accelerate the timeline. Yes, all of it. Today. He hung up and looked at me. We're meeting her in an hour. Downtown. Somewhere secure. While I dressed, my mind raced. Chris wasn't just cheating. He was involved in something criminal. Something that could land him, and possibly me by association, in prison. The beautiful life we built was a facade. A pretty shell hiding rot. My father drove us to a nondescript office building in the financial district. The lobby was all marble and glass, filled with people in suits moving with purpose. We took the elevator to the 40th floor. Sophia Williams's office was what you'd expect from a high-end private investigator, sparse, professional, with a view of the Hudson that probably cost more than my annual salary. Sophia herself was in her early 40s, with sharp eyes that missed nothing and a handshake that was firm and efficient. Isabella, she said. I'm sorry we're meeting under these circumstances. Thank you for your help, I said. She gestured to a conference table covered with documents. Let's get to work. What you heard this morning confirms what I've been suspecting. Chris and Emma aren't lovers, they're partners. In fraud, money laundering, and possibly embezzlement. She spread out the documents. Bank records. Flight manifests. Property deeds. Robert Reynolds's company is under SEC investigation for securities fraud, she explained. He's been moving money offshore through shell companies. Chris has been helping him, using his position at the bank to authorize transfers that should have raised red flags. She pointed to a series of transactions. These are the transfers from your joint account to Emma. They're not gifts. They're payments. For her role in the scheme. I felt sick. How much? Total? About $300,000 from your joint accounts, Sophia said. But from the bank's clients? Approximately $15 million. The number was so large it felt abstract. $15 million? Spread across 20 transactions over 6 months, she confirmed. All below reporting thresholds. All authorized by Chris. My father spoke for the first time. What's the end game? Sophia pulled out 2 passports. These were delivered to a P.O. box registered to Emma this morning. New identities. For both of them. She opened them. Chris's photo stared back at me, but with a different name. Charles Adams. Emma was Elizabeth Adams. They're planning to disappear, I whispered. Next Thursday, Sophia confirmed. Flight to the Caymans, then to Switzerland. After that, they become different people. The room swam. My husband, the man I'd loved, the man I'd built a life with, was planning to vanish. To leave me with nothing. To possibly leave me facing criminal charges if the scheme unraveled. What do we do? I asked, my voice sounding small. We beat them to it, Sophia said. Today. She outlined the plan. It was risky. It was bold. It required perfect timing. But it was our only chance. We need to access Chris's laptop, Sophia said. He has the encryption keys for the offshore accounts. Without those, they can't access the money. How do we get it? I asked. He never lets it out of his sight. He will today, Sophia said. Because today you're going to create a distraction. The plan unfolded with precision. At 2 p.m. I would call Chris with an emergency. My father had collapsed. I was at the hospital. I needed him. While he was distracted, Sophia's team would access our apartment. They'd clone his laptop, install monitoring software, and be gone before he returned. Then we'd wait, gather more evidence, and at the right moment we'd strike. But first I had to play my part. At 1:55 p.m., standing in a hospital parking garage for authenticity, I called Chris. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. He answered on the third ring. Bella? Everything okay? Dad, I said, letting my voice break. He collapsed. We're at New York Presbyterian. It's bad, Chris. The concern in his voice sounded genuine. Oh God. Which campus? I'll come right now. I gave him the address. Hurry, please. I'm on my way, he said. Just let me grab my things. I could hear him moving through his office. My laptop. Just let me shut it down. No, just come, I said, layering panic into my voice. Please, Chris. Okay. I'm leaving now. I hung up and leaned against my car, breathing heavily. Stage 1 complete. My phone buzzed with a text from Sophia. He's leaving the building. Team is moving in. The next 30 minutes were the longest of my life. I paced the parking garage, imagining Sophia's team in my home, touching Chris's things, accessing his secrets. My phone buzzed again. Done. Clean exit. You're clear to go home. I drove back to our apartment, my mind racing. What had they found? What new horrors awaited? My father was waiting, his expression grim. They got everything. And more. He played another audio recording from the guest suite, recorded just before Chris left to meet me at the hospital. Emma's voice. Once we're gone, she'll be left with nothing. The lawyers will tie her up in court for years. Chris. And if she figures it out? Emma. What can she do? She's a software engineer, not a forensic accountant. By the time she realizes the money's gone, we'll be sipping cocktails on a beach. Chris. I feel guilty sometimes. Emma laughed. A cruel, dismissive sound. Don't. She was a means to an end. A pretty placeholder until something better came along. The words cut deeper than any physical wound. A placeholder. That's all I'd ever been. My father turned off the recording. I'm sorry, Mija. I'm not, I said, surprising myself with the steel in my voice. Now I know exactly what he is. And exactly what I need to do. Sophia arrived an hour later, carrying a hard drive. We got everything, she said. The encryption keys, account numbers, transfer schedules. And this. She connected the hard drive to my computer. A video file opened, security footage from Chris's office. It showed Chris meeting with Robert Reynolds. They were reviewing documents. Reynolds handed Chris an envelope. Chris counted the cash inside, thick stacks of $100 bills. This was 2 weeks ago, Sophia said. Payment for the last transfer. She pulled up another document, a life insurance policy, taken out 6 months ago, with me as the beneficiary. First I thought it was sweet. Then I read the details. $2 million, I whispered. And if you die, Sophia said gently, Chris gets the money. As your husband. The pieces clicked into place with horrifying clarity. The affair, the money laundering, the planned disappearance, and the life insurance policy. He wouldn't. I couldn't finish the sentence. He's desperate, Sophia said. The SEC investigation is closing in. He needs money to disappear. And $2 million would fund a very comfortable new life. My father's hand found mine. We need to get you out of that apartment. Tonight. But I shook my head. No. If I leave, he'll know something's wrong. He'll run sooner. So what do you propose? Sophia asked. I play my part, I said. Until we have enough to take to the authorities. Until we can stop them. It was the most dangerous option. But it was also the only one that gave us a chance to recover the stolen money. To bring them to justice. That evening, Chris came home looking appropriately concerned. How's your father? He asked, hugging me. Stable, I said, playing my role perfectly. They're keeping him overnight for observation. I'm so sorry, baby, he said, stroking my hair. Anything I can do? Just like that. The loving husband. The concerned son-in-law. All of it a performance. I'm just glad you're here, I said, resting my head on his shoulder. The shoulder that had held another woman just hours before. As he made us dinner, humming in the kitchen like everything was normal, I watched him. Really watched him. And I saw what I'd missed for years. The calculation in his eyes. The way every gesture was measured. The way his affection was always transactional. He was a man playing a part. And I'd been his willing audience. But the curtain was about to fall. And when it did, Christopher Anderson was going to discover that the woman he'd underestimated, the placeholder he thought would never fight back, was actually the one who would end him. 4 days. That's how long we had until Chris and Emma planned to disappear. 4 days to gather irrefutable evidence, secure my safety, and set a trap that would catch them both. The morning after discovering the life insurance policy, I woke with a new clarity. The grief was still there. A heavy stone in my chest, but it had been joined by something else. Cold, focused rage. The kind that sharpens your senses instead of blinding them. Chris was already gone when I opened my eyes. Another early meeting. Another lie. I found my father in the living room, already working with Sophia. They turned our apartment into a command center overnight. Laptops, monitors, secure communication lines. The beautiful space that had been my sanctuary now felt like a war room. Good, you're up, Sophia said without looking up from her screen. Chris just accessed the Cayman accounts. He's moving another $2 million. I joined them at the table. How much total now? $18 million, my father said, his voice tight. Spread across 12 offshore accounts. The number was staggering. $18 million stolen from clients. From retirees, families, small businesses. Also, Chris and Emma could live lavishly under new identities. Any movement on the travel plans? I asked. Sophia pulled up a flight manifest. They upgraded to first class. Thursday, 11 p.m. JFK to Grand Cayman. Connecting to Zurich the next day. 3 days. We had 3 days. What's our play? I asked. Sophia leaned back, her sharp eyes meeting mine. We give them exactly what they want, but on our terms. She explained the plan. It was audacious, dangerous, and if it worked perfectly just. We need to access the money before they do, she said. Freeze the accounts. But to do that, we need the physical security tokens from Chris's office safe. I shook my head. He never leaves that safe unlocked. And I don't have the combination. That's where you come in, Sophia said. Today you're going to create a reason for him to open it in front of you. The plan was simple in theory. I would pretend to discover suspicious activity in our joint accounts. Worried about identity theft, I'd insist we secure all our assets immediately, including the contents of his office safe. Will he buy it? I asked. My father answered. He's arrogant. He thinks you're clueless about finances, and he's desperate to keep you calm until Thursday. So that morning I played my part. I called Chris at work, letting panic color my voice. Chris, something's wrong with our accounts, I said, pacing by the window. There were withdrawals I didn't make. Large ones. Pause on his end. Too long. What? What kind of withdrawals? 20,000 from savings. 15 from the money market. I made the numbers up, but they were plausible. I think someone has our information. I could almost hear his mind working, calculating. Don't worry about it, Bella. I'll look into it. Probably just a glitch. No, I said, layering hysteria carefully. I want everything secured. Today. All our documents. Everything in your safe too. I'm coming to your office. Another pause. Longer this time. That's not necessary. It is to me. I snapped. My father's in the hospital, our money's disappearing. I need to feel secure, Chris. Or I'm going to the police. The threat worked. Okay. Calm down. Come by at noon. We'll go through everything together. I hung up, my heart hammering. Stage 1 complete. At 11:30 I dressed carefully, professional but vulnerable. A silk blouse that Chris liked, but with my hair slightly messy, as if I'd been running my hands through it. The picture of a distressed wife. My father drove me to Chris's office building in Midtown. Remember, he said as we pulled up, you're scared, not suspicious. Confused, not angry. I know the part, I said, taking a deep breath. The lobby of Anderson Financial was all glass and steel, projecting exactly the kind of cold efficiency Chris valued. I rode the elevator to the 42nd floor, my stomach churning. Lauren, Chris's assistant, looked up with a strained smile when I entered. Mrs. Anderson, Chris is waiting for you. Her eyes held something new today, pity. She knew, or suspected. Chris's office was corner office with views of the park. He stood when I entered, coming around his desk to embrace me. Bella, you look exhausted. I haven't slept, I said, which was true. I'm just scared. He guided me to a chair. Let me see the account statements. I handed him fake printouts Sophia had prepared, plausible enough to pass casual inspection. He glanced at them, then set them aside. These are probably just timing differences, he said dismissively. I want to see everything, I insisted. Our documents. The safe. I need to know we're protected. His jaw tightened, but he nodded. Okay, if it'll make you feel better. He walked to a bookshelf, removed a volume of economic theory, and pressed a hidden button. A section of the wall swung open, revealing a safe the size of a small refrigerator. My breath caught. I'd known about the safe, but never seen inside. Chris blocked my view as he worked the combination. The door swung open. Inside were stacks of cash, bundles of documents, and 3 small devices that looked like calculators, the security tokens for the offshore accounts. See, Chris said, gesturing vaguely. Everything's secure. I want to see the documents, I said, standing. I want to make copies of everything. For my records. Bella, that's not. Please, Chris. I let tears fill my eyes. After my father. I just need to feel in control. The manipulation worked. With a sigh, he began removing documents. Fine. But quickly. I have a meeting at 1. While he stacked papers on his desk, I edged closer to the safe. My phone was in my hand. Sophia had installed a special app that could scan and clone security tokens if they were within 3 feet. I just don't understand how this happened, I said, moving slightly. The phone vibrated once, successful scan. These things happen, Chris said distractedly, still arranging documents. Banks make mistakes. I scanned the second token, then the third. Here, Chris said, turning with an armful of papers. These are all our joint account records. Happy. I took them, my hand steady. Thank you. This helps. While I pretended to review the documents, Chris returned to the safe. That's when I saw it, tucked behind the cash, mostly hidden. A gun. Small. Sleek. Deadly. My blood ran cold. The life insurance policy. The gun. The planned disappearance. Chris followed my gaze. It's just for protection, he said quickly, closing the safe. With the amounts of money I handle. He was lying. I could see it in his eyes. I didn't know you had a gun, I said, keeping my voice neutral. I should have told you, he said. I'm sorry. We spent the next hour going through documents, a pantomime of marital trust. He showed me statements, explained transactions, promised to look into the suspicious withdrawals. All while I knew he was planning to leave the country in 3 days, possibly planning to make sure I never followed. When I left his office at 1 p.m., the security tokens cloned onto my phone, I felt his eyes on my back all the way to the elevator. Outside, my father was waiting in a parked car down the block. Well? He asked as I slid into the passenger seat. I showed him my phone. All 3 tokens. And he has a gun. My father's face went still. That changes things. We drove directly to Sophia's office. She downloaded the token data, her fingers flying across the keyboard. Perfect, she said when the transfer completed. Now we can monitor all account activity in real time. And when the time comes, freeze everything. What about the gun? My father asked. Sophia's expression turned grim. We need to assume he's willing to use it. Isabella, you can't go back to that apartment. I have to, I said. If I disappear, he'll run. Or worse, he'll come looking for me. We argued for an hour. My father wanted me in a safe house. Sophia wanted to bring in the authorities immediately. But I held firm. If we move now, we only get Chris, I said. Emma and her father get away. The money stays hidden. I need to see this through. In the end they agreed, but with conditions. I would wear a panic button at all times. My father would stay in a hotel 2 blocks from our apartment. And Sophia would have a team watching the building 24/7. That night, I returned to the apartment as if nothing had changed. Chris was already home cooking dinner, his attempt at normalcy. Feeling better? He asked, kissing my cheek. A little, I said. Thank you for today. I'm sorry I was so dramatic. It's okay, he said. With everything going on with your father. We ate dinner making small talk, the weather, work, anything but the truth hanging between us. Every laugh felt hollow, every smile a lie. After dinner, Chris opened a bottle of wine. I was thinking, he said, pouring 2 glasses. Maybe we should get away. After your father's better. Just the 2 of us. The irony was almost laughable. Where were you thinking? The Caribbean maybe, he said, his eyes watching my reaction. Somewhere we can just disappear for a while. Disappear. The word hung in the air, loaded with meaning he didn't know I understood. That sounds nice, I said, taking a sip of wine. When were you thinking? Soon, he said. Very soon. We went to bed early. Chris fell asleep quickly, his breathing deep and even. I lay beside him, watching the clock tick toward midnight. My phone buzzed with a text from Sophia. Movement on account 3. $500,000 transfer initiated. Freeze. I texted back. Not yet. Let it go through. We need the destination account. The trap was set. The bait taken. Now we just had to wait for them to spring it. But as I lay there in the dark, listening to the man I'd married breathe, I knew the most dangerous part was still ahead. Because Chris wasn't just a cheat or a thief. He was a man with a gun, a life insurance policy on his wife, and nothing left to lose. And in 3 days he was planning to disappear forever. Unless I disappeared him first. 3 days became 2. 2 became 1. The countdown to Thursday's flight ticked in my mind like a bomb about to detonate. The morning before their planned disappearance, everything changed. I woke to find Chris already dressed, standing by the window with his phone pressed to his ear. His voice was low, urgent. Tonight, not tomorrow. Yes, I'm sure. The situation has changed. He turned, saw I was awake, and ended the call quickly. Morning, he said, forcing a smile. Didn't mean to wake you. What's going on? I asked, sitting up. Just work, he said, but his eyes darted away. A tell I'd learned to recognize. A client needs me in London. Emergency meeting. Today. I kept my voice calm, but my heart hammered against my ribs. Tonight, actually, he said, moving to the closet. I have to pack. Flight's at 11. Tonight. Not tomorrow. They'd moved up the timeline. I slipped from bed, my mind racing. How long will you be gone? A week, maybe 2. He avoided my eyes as he threw suits into a suitcase. Depends on how the meetings go. The lies came so easily to him now. Like breathing. I'll help you pack, I said, moving to the dresser. As I folded shirts, I activated the panic button on my bracelet. 3 quick presses. The signal to Sophia and my father that things were accelerating. Chris's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, his expression tightening. I need to run to the office first. Tie up loose ends. Before your flight? I asked, keeping my tone light. Last-minute documents, he said, zipping the suitcase. I'll be back by 6. We can have an early dinner before I leave. He kissed my forehead, a perfunctory gesture, and was gone, the door closing behind him with finality. The moment he left, I sprang into action. First, I texted Sophia. Timeline moved. Flight tonight 11 p.m. He's packing now. Her reply was immediate. Airport team alerted. Financial freeze in 3 now. On my laptop, I watched the real-time account monitor Sophia had set up. One by one, the offshore accounts froze. Error messages flashed as Chris and Emma tried to access the money that was no longer there. My phone rang. My father. Are you safe? For now, I said. He's coming back at 6. Don't be there when he arrives, he said, his voice tight with worry. Come to the hotel now. He'll run if I'm gone, I said. And we still need the evidence from the safe. We'd planned to retrieve it tomorrow, during their original departure time. Now we had to move today. Sophia called on the secure line. Change of plan. We're going in now. While he's at the office. Too risky, I said. What if he comes back? He won't, Sophia said. My team is creating a distraction at his office. Federal agents are randomly auditing his department. He'll be tied up for hours. The precision of the operation took my breath away. How did you? Your father still has friends in high places, she said. Now listen carefully. I need you to get into that safe. The combination is your anniversary, Sophia said. We analyzed security footage from your visit. The movements matched a date combination. Try 0827. Our anniversary. August 27th. Of course he'd use something sentimental. Something he thought I'd never suspect. I'll try, I said. Once you have the contents, leave immediately, Sophia instructed. My team will extract you from the building. Don't pack. Don't hesitate. Just go. I hung up and moved to Chris's study. The hidden safe behind the bookshelf felt like a tomb waiting to be opened. My hand shook as I removed the book and pressed the hidden button. The wall panel swung open. The safe door stared back at me, cold and imposing. I entered the numbers. A soft click. The door released. Inside was more than I expected. Not just cash and documents, but passports, 4 of them. 2 for Chris under different names. 2 for Emma. Tickets for tonight's flight. And a smaller locked box. Using a letter opener from the desk, I pried the box open. Inside were diamonds, loose stones that glittered coldly in the light. And a key with a tag. Storage Unit 417 Manhattan Mini Storage. I photographed everything, then packed it all into the gym bag I'd brought. The cash, the passports, the diamonds, the key. Every piece of evidence. My phone buzzed. He's left the office. Heading your way. 8 at 20 minutes. 20 minutes. I had 20 minutes. I did one last sweep of the apartment looking for anything else. In Chris's nightstand I found it, the gun. Loaded. And next to it a single ticket for tonight's flight. 1 ticket. Not 2. My blood ran cold. He wasn't planning to take Emma. Or he was planning to take her separately. Or the pieces clicked together with horrifying clarity. The life insurance policy. The gun. 1 ticket. He wasn't planning to disappear with Emma. He was planning to disappear alone. After collecting on my life insurance, the apartment door clicked open. I froze, the gun still in my hand. Bella. Chris's voice called from the foyer. You home? He was early. 15 minutes early. I slipped the gun into the gym bag, zipped it silently, and moved toward the bedroom window. Our fire escape, we'd never used it, but it was there. Bella. His voice was closer now. In the living room. I slid the window open as quietly as I could, the cold afternoon air biting my skin. The gym bag went first, dropped to the landing below. Then I climbed out, pulling the window mostly closed behind me. Bella. Chris's voice was in the hallway now. I started down the fire escape, my shoes making soft metallic clangs. Too loud. The bedroom window flew open above me. Bella. What the hell? I didn't look back. I ran. Down the ladder, the metal freezing against my hands. 3 floors. 2. Stop. Chris's voice was closer. He was on the fire escape now, following me, My phone still in my pocket. I fumbled for it, hit the emergency call button to Sophia. Bella, just stop and talk to me. Chris called, his voice desperate now. I reached the bottom, grabbed the gym bag, and ran toward the alley exit. Sophia's extraction team was supposed to be there. But the alley was empty. Sophia! I screamed into the phone. I'm in the alley. He's right behind me. A black SUV screeched around the corner. Not Sophia's team. Chris's car. He jumped down the last few feet of the fire escape, landing hard. Bella, please. You don't understand. I understand everything. I shouted, backing away. The money. Emma. The gun. The ticket. His expression shifted, from pleading to something darker. You shouldn't have looked. He moved toward me, and for the first time in our marriage I was genuinely afraid of my husband. Sophia! I screamed again. Headlights flooded the alley. 2 cars this time. Sophia's team and my father in his Mercedes. Chris saw them too. He hesitated, calculation flashing in his eyes. Then he turned and ran back toward the fire escape. Stop him! My father yelled, jumping from his car. But Chris was already climbing, faster than I would have thought possible. He disappeared back into our apartment just as Sophia's team reached me. Are you hurt? Sophia asked, her eyes scanning me for injuries. I'm fine, I said, though I was shaking. He's getting away. Not for long, she said, radioing her team. Buildings surrounded. He's not leaving. But Chris was smarter than we gave him credit for. As we entered the building lobby, Henry the doorman ran toward us, pale and shaking. Mr. Anderson. He took the service elevator to the garage. He had a bag. Looked like he was leaving for a trip. The garage. Of course. We ran to the security office, pulling up the garage cameras. Chris was already in his car, backing out of his spot. But he wasn't alone. Emma was in the passenger seat. They'd been planning to meet here. To leave together from our building. On the monitor we watched as Chris sped toward the exit. The security gate was down. Standard procedure during business hours. He didn't stop. The BMW crashed through the gate, glass and metal shattering. They're running, Sophia said into her radio. All teams pursue. Do not let them reach the airport. My father put an arm around me as we watched the chaos unfold on the monitors. It's over, Mija. They're not getting away. But on the screen, Chris's car wove through traffic with dangerous skill. He knew the city, knew how to disappear. Sophia's phone rang. She listened, her expression grim. They lost him. He took the FDR drive. Could be heading to any bridge or tunnel. The gym bag felt heavy in my hand. I have everything from this safe. Passports, tickets, diamonds, and a key to a storage unit. Sophia's eyes lit up. The storage unit. That's where they keep emergency cash. Alternate documents. We need that address. The key tag said Manhattan Mini Storage. But which location? There were dozens in the city. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. If you want to live, bring the diamonds to Pier 54. 1 hour. Come alone. Chris. He had my number from the joint account records. He wants to trade, I said, showing Sophia the text. It's a trap, my father said immediately. You're not going. But Sophia was already analyzing. Pier 54. Abandoned. Isolated. He'd have the advantage there. He has my number, I said. He knows where my father lives, where I work. If we don't end this now. I didn't need to finish the sentence. We all knew what Chris was capable of. Sophia made a decision. We'll set our own trap. But you're not going alone. The plan came together quickly. I would go to Pier 54 but with a wire. Sophia's team would be hidden nearby. My father would stay at a command center monitoring everything. As I changed into darker clothes, easier for the team to protect me, my father took my hands. You don't have to do this, Isabella. We can let the authorities handle it now. He threatened my life, Dad. And he has nothing left to lose. I kissed his cheek. I need to see this through. An hour later I stood on the abandoned pier, the Hudson River dark and choppy behind me. The diamonds were in my pocket, cold and heavy. Headlights cut through the fog. A car approached slowly then stopped. Chris stepped out alone. No, Emma. Where is she? I asked, my voice steady despite the fear. Gone, he said simply. She was always just means to an end. The admission shocked me. You used her too? Everyone uses everyone, Bella, he said, moving closer. It's how the world works. He looked different, desperate, unhinged. The polished banker was gone, replaced by a cornered animal. The diamonds, he said, holding out a hand. First tell me why, I said. Why all of this? We had money. We had a good life. My hand shook as I removed the book and pressed the hidden button. The wall panel swung open. The safe door stared back at me, cold and imposing. I entered the numbers. A soft click. The door released. Inside was more than I expected. Not just cash and documents but passports, 4 of them. 2 for Chris under different names. 2 for Emma. Tickets for tonight's flight. And a smaller locked box. Using a letter opener from the desk, I pried the box open. Inside were diamonds, loose stones that glittered coldly in the light. And a key with a tag. Storage Unit 417 Manhattan Mini Storage. I photographed everything, then packed it all into the gym bag I'd brought. The cash, the passports, the diamonds, the key. Every piece of evidence. My phone buzzed. He's left the office. Heading your way. 8 to 20 minutes. 20 minutes. I had 20 minutes. I did one last sweep of the apartment looking for anything else. In Chris's nightstand I found it, the gun. Loaded. And next to it a single ticket for tonight's flight. 1 ticket. Not 2. My blood ran cold. He wasn't planning to take Emma. Or he was planning to take her separately. Or, the pieces clicked together with horrifying clarity. The life insurance policy. The gun. 1 ticket. He wasn't planning to disappear with Emma. He was planning to disappear alone. After collecting on my life insurance, the apartment door clicked open. I froze, the gun still in my hand. Bella. Chris's voice called from the foyer. You home? He was early. 15 minutes early. I slipped the gun into the gym bag, zipped it silently, and moved toward the bedroom window. Our fire escape, we'd never used it, but it was there. Bella. His voice was closer now. In the living room. I slid the window open as quietly as I could, the cold afternoon air biting my skin. The gym bag went first, dropped to the landing below. Then I climbed out, pulling the window mostly closed behind me. Bella. Chris's voice was in the hallway now. I started down the fire escape, my shoes making soft metallic clangs. Too loud. The bedroom window flew open above me. Bella. What the hell? I didn't look back. I ran. Down the ladder, the metal freezing against my hands. 3 floors. 2. Stop. Chris's voice was closer. He was on the fire escape now, following me. My phone still in my pocket. I fumbled for it, hit the emergency call button to Sophia. Bella, just stop and talk to me. Chris called, his voice desperate now. I reached the bottom, grabbed the gym bag, and ran toward the alley exit. Sophia's extraction team was supposed to be there. But the alley was empty. Sophia. I screamed into the phone. I'm in the alley. He's right behind me. A black SUV screeched around the corner. Not Sophia's team. Chris's car. He jumped down the last few feet of the fire escape, landing hard. Bella, please. You don't understand. I understand everything. I shouted, backing away. The money. Emma. The gun. The ticket. His expression shifted, from pleading to something darker. You shouldn't have looked. He moved toward me, and for the first time in our marriage I was genuinely afraid of my husband. Sophia. I screamed again. Headlights flooded the alley. 2 cars this time. Sophia's team and my father in his Mercedes. Chris saw them too. He hesitated, calculation flashing in his eyes. Then he turned and ran back toward the fire escape. Stop him, my father yelled, jumping from his car. But Chris was already climbing, faster than I would have thought possible. He disappeared back into our apartment just as Sophia's team reached me. Are you hurt? Sophia asked, her eyes scanning me for injuries. I'm fine, I said, though I was shaking. He's getting away. Not for long, she said, radioing her team. Buildings surrounded. He's not leaving. But Chris was smarter than we gave him credit for. As we entered the building lobby, Henry the doorman ran toward us, pale and shaking. Mr. Anderson. He took the service elevator to the garage. He had a bag. Looked like he was leaving for a trip. The garage. Of course. We ran to the security office, pulling up the garage cameras. Chris was already in his car, backing out of his spot. But he wasn't alone. Emma was in the passenger seat. They'd been planning to meet here. To leave together from our building. On the monitor we watched as Chris sped toward the exit. The security gate was down. Standard procedure during business hours. He didn't stop. The BMW crashed through the gate, glass and metal shattering. They're running, Sophia said into her radio. All teams pursue. Do not let them reach the airport. My father put an arm around me as we watched the chaos unfold on the monitors. It's over, Mija. They're not getting away. But on the screen, Chris's car wove through traffic with dangerous skill. He knew the city, knew how to disappear. Sophia's phone rang. She listened, her expression grim. They lost him. He took the FDR drive. Could be heading to any bridge or tunnel. The gym bag felt heavy in my hand. I have everything from this safe. Passports, tickets, diamonds, and a key to a storage unit. Sophia's eyes lit up. The storage unit. That's where they keep emergency cash. Alternate documents. We need that address. The key tag said Manhattan Mini Storage. But which location? There were dozens in the city. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. If you want to live, bring the diamonds to Pier 54. 1 hour. Come alone. Chris. He had my number from the joint account records. He wants to trade, I said, showing Sophia the text. It's a trap, my father said immediately. You're not going. But Sophia was already analyzing. Pier 54. Abandoned. Isolated. He'd have the advantage there. He has my number, I said. He knows where my father lives, where I work. If we don't end this now. I didn't need to finish the sentence. We all knew what Chris was capable of. Sophia made a decision. We'll set our own trap. But you're not going alone. The plan came together quickly. I would go to Pier 54 but with a wire. Sophia's team would be hidden nearby. My father would stay at a command center monitoring everything. As I changed into darker clothes, easier for the team to protect me, my father took my hands. You don't have to do this, Isabella. We can let the authorities handle it now. He threatened my life, Dad. And he has nothing left to lose. I kissed his cheek. I need to see this through. An hour later I stood on the abandoned pier, the Hudson River dark and choppy behind me. The diamonds were in my pocket, cold and heavy. Headlights cut through the fog. A car approached slowly then stopped. Chris stepped out alone. No Emma. Where is she? I asked, my voice steady despite the fear. Gone, he said simply. She was always just means to an end. The admission shocked me. You used her too? Everyone uses everyone, Bella, he said, moving closer. It's how the world works. He looked different, desperate, unhinged. The polished banker was gone, replaced by a cornered animal. The diamonds, he said, holding out a hand. First tell me why, I said. Why all of this? We had money. We had a good life. 2 days later, I found myself in the visitor's room at the Metropolitan Detention Center. The room was all cold surfaces and monitored spaces, a far cry from the luxurious offices Chris was used to. He looked smaller in the orange jumpsuit. Older. The silver at his temples had spread, and there were shadows under his eyes that hadn't been there before. Bella, he said when they let him in, his voice careful. Thank you for coming. We sat across from each other, the plexiglass between us feeling both like protection and prison. I read your letter, I said. He nodded. I meant it. Every word. I know, I said. That's what makes it harder. We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of everything unsaid hanging between us. Why did you come? He asked finally. Closure, I said. And to ask you one question. He waited. That morning, I said. When you kissed me goodbye. When your GPS showed you at the cafe. Where were you really? He looked down at his hands, the same hands that had held mine, that had signed fraudulent documents, that had held a gun to my head. In the stairwell, he said quietly, waiting for Emma, watching my phone to make sure the spoof location was working, watching the security app to make sure you weren't coming downstairs. The confirmation shouldn't have hurt, I already knew, but it did. A fresh wound on top of all the others. And if I had come downstairs? I asked. His eyes met mine through the glass. I would have made up an excuse, forgotten something. I was good at excuses, wasn't I? The best, I said and meant it. We sat in silence again, the clock on the wall ticking loudly. Will you visit? He asked, the question sounding small and hopeful. I shook my head. No. This is the last time. He absorbed this, his shoulders slumping slightly. I understand. I'm selling the apartment, I said, donating most of the furniture, keeping only what was mine before. And after? He asked. I don't know yet, I said honestly, but I'll figure it out. The guard approached. Time's up. Chris stood, his movements slower than I remembered. Bella, I'm sorry. For everything. I know, I said. And I did. His remorse was real. Just came too late to matter. He was led away, and I was left alone in the visitor's room, the ghost of our marriage lingering in the empty space between chairs. Outside, my father was waiting. He didn't ask how it went. Just opened the car door for me. As we drove through the Brooklyn streets, the city I loved, scrolling past the windows, I realized something important. 4 months, I'd been defined by Chris's betrayal, by his lies, by his choices. But sitting in that visitor's room, watching him walk away in handcuffs, I'd felt the shift. The moment when his story stopped being mine. He would spend the next decade in prison, wrestling with his demons. And I would be free. The next weeks were a blur of practical matters. The apartment sold quickly, to a nice young couple starting their life together, which felt poetic somehow. My things went into storage. Chris's things were donated or discarded. I took a leave of absence from work. Traveled for the first time in years, not to luxurious resorts but to quiet places where I could think. The mountains of Colorado. The coast of Maine. Places where no one knew me as Chris Anderson's wife. Slowly, I began to remember who I was without him. The woman who loved coding not because it was a career, but because it made sense in a world that often didn't. The woman who had friends and interests and dreams that had nothing to do with being someone's wife. 6 months after the arrest, I testified at Chris's sentencing hearing. He pleaded guilty to all charges, his apology to the court, and to me, broadcast on every news channel. I didn't watch. I was already moving on. My father retired fully, turning his townhouse into a hub of activity. Friends visiting, old colleagues dropping by, life filling the spaces that had been quiet for too long. And me? I started a new company. Not in software, but in cybersecurity for domestic abuse survivors, helping women secure their digital lives when leaving dangerous relationships. Sophia joined as a consultant. My father handled the legal side. Felt right. Taking the nightmare I'd lived through and turning it into something that could help others. A year to the day after that final morning kiss, I stood on the balcony of my new apartment, a smaller space in Greenwich Village with no memories of Chris, and watched the sunset paint the Hudson in shades of orange and purple. My phone buzzed with a text from my father. Dinner at 7? I'm making paella. I smiled, texting back. Wouldn't miss it. As I turned to go inside, my eyes caught on the security camera by the door. A discreet little device I'd installed myself. Not because I was afraid, but because I'd learned the value of seeing things clearly. Chris's GPS had lied about where he was going. But it had led me to a truth more important than his location. My own strength. The kiss had been a lie. The marriage had been a facade. But the woman who emerged from the wreckage? She was real. She was strong. And she was just getting started. My husband had kissed me goodbye, and his GPS had shown he never left the house. But I had left. I had walked out of that beautiful haunted apartment and into my own life. And sometimes the most powerful revenge isn't destruction. It's simply living well, living truly, living free.